Welcome to tonight's presentation. Tonight, I'd like to take you through a series of slides that ultimately have us addressing 3 potential high school projects. This presentation, by my own admission, is a little lengthy. What causes the length of this presentation is we need your input. At various times throughout this presentation, we're going to give you a chance to tell us what you think. So stay with us through this presentation. Also, we would invite you to one of the many community meetings that will be coming to an elementary, middle school, or high school near you. It's something that has been discussed in this community for a very long time. I can look back through my files and find that we had a discussion 2017. We re-engaged this discussion again in 2020. And here we are in 2021. We want to talk to you about concepts that we have moved from 8 to 3. And so why are we here? We're here because our high schools are aging out. West Vigo High School is 60 years old. And I know it's hard to believe, but Terre Haute North and Terre Haute South are 50 years of age. And as a result, these buildings are in need of, again, renovation or new construction. Regardless if you're at West Vigo, Terre Haute South, or Terre Haute North. We have to, as a community, think about our high schools and ask ourselves, is this the time to invest? Time to invest in our buildings so that the generation that they have served can look forward to the generation that they will serve and say, we're proud of what we're delivering to that next generation. So tonight, throughout our presentation, there'll be opportunities for us to hear from you. Give us your feedback, visit the link below, and enter the access code to participate in a thought exchange. So our first question tonight, what parts of our current high school facilities concern you the most? When I think about why we're here, I think not only of the opportunity for our students, I think about the opportunity for our community. As we undertake this discussion on facilities, we need to think about how those facilities serve our community. Are they open only from 8 to 3? Or are they true community facilities, open to the public after our students are completed with their school day? And can these facilities lend themselves to economic development? It is no secret that our community, our county, West Central Indiana, has been shrinking in terms of population. Is there something we might be able to do with regards to our facilities that make Terre Haute a West Central hub of economic activity, partnering with our higher ed institutions, partnering with local businesses, and partnering with the trades? So when we think about our high school projects, I hope we also think about those things. I've been using this slide quite a bit in my public presentations, and by no means do I want to marginalize the scope of our high school building projects, but I think this helps frame our discussion. A 1972 Mustang or a 2021 Mustang? If given the opportunity, or if I were going to present you one of these two vehicles as a gift, which one would you take? Some of you would take the 72. Some of you would take the 2021. Both will get you to where you want to go, but there are some advantages and disadvantages into these two options. The 2021, when it rolls off the line, it's going to cost you in excess of $30,000. Way back in 1972, that Mustang rolled off at about $6,000. If we're going to try to get this 72 Mustang to where the 2021 Mustang is, we're going to have to make an investment. The 1972 doesn't have airbags. Do you want airbags? The 1972 doesn't have a computer system. Do you want a computer system? One other thing that the 72 doesn't have that the 2021 has, and it's become a convenience item for all of us, is cup holders. Something that we now take for granted every time we grab our coffee and get into our car. As we think about buildings that are 60 and 50 years of age, I think we need to think about the balance between renovation and new construction. Before we start with facilities, I think there's some other things that we need to cover. Things that impact the potential cost of these projects. In 2019, we went to our community and asked for some help. We were staring down off of a cliff with the understanding that in 2 short years we would be deficit spending. What this community allowed for us to do in 2019 is to not have to fall off that cliff, but rather gave us, as a school district, the opportunity to gradually right-size our district so that our revenue was keeping up with our expenses. So in 2019, our community said yes to a referendum that provides us $7 million annually. And the community said yes to these things. Increase in teacher pay at 5%, 4%, and 3%. And so that $3 million is embedded into that $7 million from 2020 to 2027. Said yes to transportation. What I mean by that, more field trips, the opportunities for our students to get to and from school, as our transportation fund was running in the red. What that allowed us to do is maintain armed police officers at every one of our buildings in the form of student protection officers. It also provided us behavioral interventionists, nurses, and counselors. So we thank our community for that. And we told our community that if you give us this opportunity, in 2027, that referendum will go away. Give us the opportunity to right-size our district, and in 2027, that referendum will go away. As a result, here's what we said. We're going to work to right-size the district. We also have been saying, since COVID and since we have been starting to get federal funds, we want to use our federal funds to address our buildings. We've also said this, that anything that we do in regards to our high schools, we need to be able to use those to retain our children and attract families to our communities. So, as we've been using those dollars in the referenda, we've also been doing some difficult work. The downtown administration office no longer belongs to the school corporation. We sold that building for $3 million. We've moved alternative education out of McLean High School and moved it into Booker T. Washington, only to relocate Covered Bridge out of a building that they were leasing and had been leasing for 30 years into McLean. We moved our central office to West Vigo Elementary. We recently brought to Deming Elementary an early childhood education center. Great uses of taxpayer dollars while at the same time reducing our footprint. We also believe this can happen. We also believe that instead of ending that referenda in 2027, we now believe that we can end it in 2024. And we can do that thanks to some hard work at right-sizing the district and thanks to ESSER funds that we've been receiving in this time of COVID. A total of 47 million ESSER funds. And when we end the operational referenda in 2024, the $3 million that was embedded into the teacher contract remains. The commitment to transportation remains. The SPOs remain. Behavioral interventionists, nurses, and counselors, those commitments also remain. What we've been able to do in just a few short years is do the difficult work of school closure. And when I say this, there is still the need to close an additional elementary school. So we've been doing that hard work. So when we think about ending that operational referenda in 2024, and we think about an upcoming building project, we would love to be able to use some of those ESSER dollars so that we can move forward in a building project. However, if we fail to move forward with a building project using referenda dollars, we're going to need to use those ESSER dollars to help us with infrastructure, HVAC systems in our high schools. So when you think about it, our community gets to help us decide on how to spend those ESSER dollars. Do we put it towards ending the operational referenda early, or do we put it into existing facilities at West, North, and South high schools? If you take a look at this slide, this is really a glimpse into how schools are funded. There's an education fund that's funded through your sales tax, put into a funding formula that we receive every year based upon school enrollment. Your tax dollars go to our operational fund. And historically, this slide represents how that fund works. What we were not expecting were ESSER dollars to flow into our operational fund. Let me give you an example. In 2019, we told our community that we wanted to be 1-to-1 in 4 years. When COVID came to our doorsteps, we realized we were unprepared digitally for remote education. We used our federal funds to help us get to 1-to-1, not in 4 years, but in 4 months. So those dollars that we were planning to set aside, we now had as a result of federal funding. As we think about ending that operational referenda in 2024, the $3 million added to the base salary for our teachers not going away. We are also wanting to bring back steps into the salary schedule for teachers. And when we think about the final years of the referenda, 25, 26, and 27, it's our hope to use our rainy day fund in order to get us the last 3 years that we need. So if we put ending the operational referenda over here, and we think about school construction, here's what our community has told us. They've told us at community meetings last spring, we want 3 high schools. We want 3 high schools, and we do not want a Band-Aid approach. We don't want a Band-Aid to fix the structural problems. They told us that as we think about high schools, we want to support the trades. We want hands-on learning. We want to support STEM education. We want flexible, collaborative spaces that look like the modern workplace. And we want to limit the tax impact. So we want to discuss 3 projects with you tonight that do just that. As I've been out talking about these 3 projects, we continue to get questions about a 4 high school model and a 2 high school model. A 4 high school model would put a high school on the east side of our district, but we need to think about the operational cost as well as the building cost. No doubt this would be an increase to the 3 proposals I'm getting ready to talk to you about. And it would add, if we want to compare it to West Vigo, an operational cost of an additional $5 to $6 million a year. If we think about shrinking our footprint to 2 high schools, and if we assume that those 2 high schools would be where north and south are located, would there be operational savings? The answer to that is yes. Again, using West Vigo High School, could it be in and around that ballpark of $5 million? I believe so. But also, there is a cost to 2 high schools. The cost could be seen in potentially not winning a referenda in which our entire community participates. The cost of 2 high schools may be that those living in our district who want a smaller school experience chooses to send their students to nearby schools. And there's this cost, the cost of a charter school coming into our district to replace West Vigo High School. So here's another opportunity to participate as we start to begin this discussion on a 3 high school model. Again, give us your feedback, visit the link below, and enter the access code to participate in a thought exchange. Here's our question. Do you believe 3 high schools is the right path forward for our community? Over the next few slides, you're going to hear us talking about under the cap and over the cap. What this slide represents is our debt service structure. The purple is everything that is inside our current tax rate. The green and the blue represents those things that are outside our current tax rate. So the green in this example represents our current operational referenda. The blue would represent a potential school construction project. So again, the purple, everything that is inside our current tax rate. The green, the blue, things that would be outside of our current tax rate. So I'm going to speak to three options. This is option one. Option one is a $160 million referenda connected with our ability to add almost $100 million that lies inside our current tax rate. The cost of a $160 million referenda to our community is an increase of just over 8 cents. What that would allow us to do over time is use the $160 million referenda to add new facilities on the current campus of Terre Haute North, Terre Haute South, and West Vigo. We would use that which is in purple, that's under the cap, which represents about $100 million of building project capacity to do various renovation projects on each of those three high school campuses. So when we look at option one, that just over 8 cents more is actually a 24-cent referendum. However, for you and I, and what we're currently doing in terms of our commitment to our schools through our school tax rate, it would be just over 8 cents more than what you're currently doing. Before we move on to option two, I need to clarify that option one, that $160 million, we're going to approach the academic spaces. And in doing so, that $160 million would build new academic spaces. Option two speaks to a $260 million referendum. It would do all the things that option one would allow us to do, but would also allow us to tackle renovation projects at North, South, and West, and allow us to do all of those at one time, using that space in the purple to address our elementaries, to address our middle schools, other projects that our other buildings currently need. This referenda is 24 cents more than what you are currently paying. As we leave option two, that $260 million, like the $160 million referenda, would bring us new academic spaces. Option three, 3 brand new high schools located on the campus of Terre Haute North, located on the campus of Terre Haute South, and located on the campus of West Terre Haute High School and Middle School. The cost of this referenda is $333 million. If the operational referenda were to go away in 2004, that would have a tax impact of an additional 36 cents. So let's recap options 1, 2, and 3. Option 1, new academic spaces at North, South, and West using the $160 million referendum. Renovated co-curricular spaces at North, South, and West. Those renovated spaces are under the cap. Option 2, new academic spaces at north, south, and west, renovated co-curricular spaces at north, south, and west. That's a $260 million referenda for a one-time project. Again, $160 million of that 260 devoted to new spaces, $100 million of that devoted to renovated spaces. Option 3, 3 brand new high schools. New high school at north, new high school at south, and a new high school at west. Remember, that's a $333 million referenda for new schools. Options 2 and 3 allow us to use $100 million in debt service for long-term facility needs at the elementary and at the middle schools. This is what we've heard. We've heard 3 high schools. Community does not want a Band-Aid fix. They want facilities that support the trades, STEM, hands-on learning. They want that space to be flexible, collaborative, and they want us to limit the tax impact. What this slide represents is our current local property tax rate for Vigo County schools. And at 95 cents, we set between North Vermilion Community Schools and Northeast School Corporation in Sullivan. What this next slide represents are the 3 options. Option 1 places us at $1.04 between Clay Community Schools and North Central Park. Option 2 places us between South Vermilion Community Schools and Southwest Park. Option 3 puts us just outside of Southwest Park. And as we think about the rural nature of our community, that $1.31, if we were to go to other urban school districts throughout the state of Indiana, probably what we would find is that number would be consistent with those larger school districts. What this slide represents is where your school taxes fall in line with other taxing entities within the county. When we think about tax impact, really what makes it real is how it impacts you, how it impacts me, and where we live, and where we work. What this slide represents are the 3 scenarios and the tax rate depending upon the assessed valuation of your home. If we use this example of a $200,000 home that has roughly $100,000 of assessed valuation, option 3 represents roughly $30 a month more to pay for 3 brand new high schools. Option 2 represents about $20 more for a mix of new construction to academic space and renovated space. Option 3 represents about a $7 increase monthly for academic space and renovation of co-curricular space over time. What is also true is that this not only affects a property owner, this also affects business owners and it affects farmers. If you have a commercial property in excess of $100,000 in value, option 3 represents $30, option 2, $20, and option 3, a little over $7 a month for every $100,000 of assessed valuation. If you're a farmer, there's also a tax impact. For every 1 acre of farm property that you own, option 3 is about 39 cents monthly for every acre. Option 2 is about 27 cents a month for every acre. And option 3 is 9 cents a month for every acre. So here's another opportunity for you to provide us with feedback. Visit the link below, enter the access code to participate, and help us with this question. Now that you understand the 3 options, which option seems most favorable to you and why? few other things that I would like to speak to before we end this presentation. Coming out of our spring community meetings, the idea or concept of a regional career center continued to be a part of those meetings. So we would like to have a discussion in regards to a career center that fits the needs of our community. We're calling that career center a FIGHT center: fabrication, innovation, technology, and engineering. Another piece that has come out of those spring meetings is a discussion of a regional performing arts center. We would take the 3 auditoriums within our existing schools and bring them up to assembly presentation level, and would consider a regional centralized performing arts center that is top of the line performance grade. In order to achieve that, we would need other collaborative partners in order to bring such a resource to Vigo County and to our students. So as we move into this last phase of this presentation, I'd like to come back to this slide in economic development. What this slide represents, if we look at it, the shrinking population of West Central Indiana. When we think about our high school projects and we think about where we live, I believe working in a collaborative nature, we can begin to retain and attract families to where we become a hub of activity for West Central Indiana. So take a moment to think about your own high school experience. Think about a teacher in front delivering content to you, sitting in a row and learning from a textbook. And now think of today's kindergarten student. That student graduates in 2034. What will our classrooms need to look like for that student? Collaborative spaces, teamwork, stacked with innovation, stacked with technology. Those are the types of classrooms that I believe will retain and attract families to our district. This brings us to our last thought exchange. Visit the link below and enter the access code to participate in this thought exchange. And help us with this question. What kind of spaces in our high schools are most important to you in a potential high school building project? Thank you for attending tonight's presentation. What we'd ask you to do now is to attend one of the upcoming community meetings near you. We'll be announcing those dates in the next few days. They'll take place at either your local high school, your local middle school, or your local elementary. I hope to see you there.